The small town of Oak Ridge sat nestled between rolling hills and thick forests. Most days were quiet and ordinary. This day started that way too, but it would end as the day that changed everything. 8-year-old Billy Collins kicked his soccer ball against the wooden fence in his backyard. The afternoon sun warmed his back as he practiced. His mother, Mary Collins, watched from the kitchen window while washing dishes. Her husband, Jack, was fixing the garden shed nearby. It was a perfect spring day. Billy scored an imaginary goal and threw his hands up in victory. "Did you see that, Dad?" he called out. Jack looked up from his work and smiled. "Nice shot, buddy. You'll be on the national team someday." Billy beamed with pride and ran to get his ball. As he bent down to pick it up, he noticed a strange shadow moving across the grass. He looked up. A light appeared in the sky. Not the eye. Then something else, something that shouldn't be there. It started small like a bright star but quickly grew larger. "Dad?" Billy's voice trembled. "What's that?" Jack put down his hammer and stepped out from behind the shed. Mary moved closer to the window, drying her hands on a kitchen towel. They both saw it now, a bright blue light growing in the evening sky. "Billy, come inside," Mary called, her voice tight with sudden worry. Something about that light felt wrong. Billy didn't move. He couldn't. The blue light seemed to reach for him, growing brighter and wider until it surrounded him in a perfect circle. His feet lifted off the ground. "Billy!" Jack shouted, running across the yard, but he was too late. Mary dropped her towel and rushed outside. "Billy! No!" The blue light pulsed once, blinding them momentarily. When they could see again, Billy was gone. The soccer ball rolled across the empty yard, coming to rest against the fence. Jack fell to his knees on the spot where his son had been standing just seconds before. Mary collapsed beside him, her scream cutting through the quiet neighborhood. There, home security cameras had recorded everything. The strange craft hovering silently above their house. The beam of light. Their son, suspended in the air for 3 seconds before vanishing. The entire incident lasted less than 30 seconds. By nightfall, police crowded the Collins living room. Officers stood awkwardly, unsure what to do. This wasn't a normal missing child case. The security footage played on the TV screen, showing the sleek, dark object in the sky. "I've never seen anything like it," Police Chief Greg Wilson said, rewinding the footage for the 5th time. "We need to call the federal authorities." Within hours, FBI agents arrived. They brought scientists and military officers. The Collins home became the center of the biggest event in human history. First contact with an alien species. The security footage spread online despite efforts to contain it. Millions watched as Billy Collins disappeared into the light. Parents held their children closer. People looked to the sky with new fear. 3 days later, experts identified markings on the spacecraft. They belonged to something called the Zarkai Imperium. No human had heard this name before, but soon everyone would know it. The Earth Defense Alliance, a joint military force created after years of smaller conflicts between nations, took control of the situation. For the first time, every country on Earth shared a common enemy. Admiral Susan Wright of the EDA addressed the world on television. She stood tall in her dark blue uniform, her gray hair pulled back tightly. Her face showed no fear, only determination. "Citizens of Earth," she began. 3 days ago, an alien force abducted a child from his home. We have identified this force as the Zarkai Imperium. We have sent messages through every possible channel demanding the immediate and safe return of Billy Collins. We await their response." She paused, her eyes hard as steel. "But let me be clear. Humanity will not stand idle while our children are taken. We are united in our resolve. We will bring Billy home." The world held its breath, waiting. Churches filled with people praying. Soldiers prepared for the unknown. Scientists worked around the clock to understand what they faced. Jack and Mary. Collins appeared on television once, their faces pale and drawn. Mary clutched her son's soccer ball. "Please," she said, looking directly into the camera. "He's just a little boy. He must be so scared." Please bring him back to us." On the seventh day, the Zarkai responded. Screens around the world showed the same image. A tall, thin figure with gray-blue skin and large, dark eyes. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English, though its mouth moved strangely. "People of Earth," the alien said. "I am Ambassador Vexital of the Zarkai Imperium. We have received your messages regarding the specimen collected from your planet. We are confused by your reaction. Collection of specimens is standard procedure when studying new species." The word specimen echoed around the world. Billy Collins, a child with hopes and dreams and a family who loved him, reduced to a specimen. "The research being conducted is not yet complete," the ambassador continued. "The specimen appears resilient and should survive most of our tests. When our work concludes, we may consider returning what remains, though this is not our normal practice." The transmission ended. Silence fell across Earth, followed by a wave of rage unlike anything in human history. Admiral Wright called an emergency meeting with world leaders. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would respond with every resource available. "They don't understand who they're dealing with," President Frank Howard said. "They see us as animals to be studied. They took a child from his backyard and can't comprehend why we're upset. They will learn," Admiral Wright promised. The Earth Defense Alliance activated every ship in its fleet. Scientists worked to understand and adapt any technology they could from the brief footage of the Zarkai craft. Special Forces trained for space operations. Lieutenant Alan Porter was selected to lead a small team on a reconnaissance mission. Their goal: locate Billy Collins. "We don't know where they're keeping him," Admiral Wright told Porter, "but the Zarkai have been observed near Jupiter. That's where you'll start." Porter nodded, his face grim. "We'll find him, Admiral." As the EDA Nightshade, Earth's most advanced stealth vessel, prepared for launch, Mary Collins gave Lieutenant Porter her son's favorite toy, a small stuffed dog. "When you find him," she said, her voice breaking, "give him this. Tell him we're coming for him." Porter tucked the toy inside his uniform. "I will, ma'am, I promise." The Nightshade departed Earth orbit silently, carrying humanity's hopes with it. They had one mission: bring Billy home. What the Zarkai didn't know was that they hadn't just taken a human child. They had awakened a sleeping giant, a species that had spent its entire history fighting to survive. And now humanity would fight for Billy Collins. The EDA Nightshade moved silently through space. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflected it. Lieutenant Alan Porter stood on the bridge, looking out at the massive gas giant ahead. Jupiter's swirling storms provided the perfect cover for their approach. "Sensors detecting unusual activity near the third moon," said Communications Officer Lisa Green. Her fingers moved quickly across her screen. "Energy signatures match what we recorded from the craft that took Billy." Porter nodded, his face tight with focus. "That's them, the Zarkai." The crew of 20 had trained for 2 weeks for this mission. They were Earth's best: pilots, scientists, soldiers, all volunteers. Each knew the risks. If discovered, they would be alone, far from help. "Take us in slow," Porter ordered. "Keep us in Jupiter's shadow." The Nightshade glided forward. As they got closer, they saw it, a massive station orbiting the moon Europa. The structure gleamed with a metallic blue-gray color. Strange markings covered its surface, the same ones seen on the craft that took Billy. "That's not just a ship," whispered Dr. Kevin Ross, the mission scientist. "That's a research facility." Porter's stomach tightened. A research facility meant experiments, tests. He thought of the small stuffed dog inside his pocket, given to him by Mary Collins. He had made a promise. "Prepare the stealth shuttle," Porter said. "We're going aboard." 6 crew members joined Porter in the shuttle. They wore specially designed suits that would mask their heat signatures and hopefully help them move undetected through the alien station. The shuttle detached from the Nightshade and drifted toward the station, using small controlled bursts from its thrusters. They approached a docking area where several smaller Zarkai vessels entered and exited. "Wait for an opening," Porter instructed the pilot. When a Zarkai ship departed, Leaving the airlock temporarily open, they slipped inside. Once aboard, they moved carefully through strange corridors. The walls pulsed with a faint blue light. The air felt thick and smelled like metal and something sweet like overripe fruit. Dr. Ross used a handheld device to translate the alien markings. "This way," he whispered, pointing down a corridor. These symbols reference biological research. They passed several rooms with transparent walls. Inside, Porter glimpsed strange creatures in containment units. Some moved, some didn't. His team remained silent, but their faces showed their horror. Finally, they reached a larger laboratory area. Through the clear wall, they saw him. Billy Collins. The 8-year-old boy floated in a cylindrical tank filled with clear liquid. He wore no clothes, but his body was partially covered with small, circular devices attached to his skin. His eyes were closed. Tubes connected to his arms and legs. Around the tank, tall Zarkai figures moved, taking readings and making adjustments. "Is he alive?" one of the team whispered. Dr. Ross checked his scanner. "Yes, his vital signs are stable, but they've sedated him." Porter felt rage build inside him, but he forced it down. Emotion wouldn't help Billy now. Only careful planning would. "We need to access their database," Porter said. "We need to know what they're doing to him and how to safely remove those devices." Dr. Ross and the team's computer specialist, Ryan Bailey, found a control terminal. While the others kept watch, they connected their devices to the alien technology. "I'm in," Bailey said after several tense minutes. Their security is advanced but predictable. They weren't expecting anyone to hack their systems. Information flowed onto their screens. Dr. Ross's face grew paler as he read. "They're testing his reactions to different stimuli," he said quietly. "Temperature changes, pain responses, healing rates. They're studying how humans function." "Can we get him out?" Porter asked. Dr. Ross nodded slowly. "Yes, but we need to be careful. The devices on his skin are monitoring his body functions. We need to remove them properly, or it could hurt him." More information appeared on Bailey's screen. His eyes widened. "Lieutenant, you need to see this," he said. "I've accessed their main database. The Zarkai. They've been watching Earth for decades. They have detailed files on us." Porter looked at the screen. Images of human cities, recordings of radio broadcasts, samples of human art and music. "They've been studying us like we're animals in a zoo," Bailey continued. "According to this, they consider us primitive despite our technology. They classify us as pre-spacefaring sentience of moderate interest." Another file opened. Porter saw maps of star systems, 12 in total, all marked with Zarkai symbols. "Their empire," Bailey explained. 12 star systems, hundreds of worlds. They're far more advanced than us, but what?" Porter asked. "But not impossibly so. Their weapons, their drives. They're maybe a century ahead of our technology, not thousands of years." Porter took a deep breath. A century of technological advantage was significant but not insurmountable, especially not for a species with humanity's determination. "Download everything," he ordered. "Then let's get Billy out of there." Dr. Ross and the medical officer worked quickly. They studied the Zarkai systems controlling Billy's tank, making sure they understood how to safely remove him. When they were ready, they drained the liquid and carefully removed the monitoring devices from his skin. Billy remained unconscious as they wrapped him in a thermal blanket. Porter took the stuffed dog from his pocket and tucked it into Billy's hand. "We've got you, kid," he whispered. "We're taking you home." The alarm sounded just as they finished disconnecting the last tube from Billy's arm. High-pitched wailing filled the station. "They've detected the data breach," Bailey said, grabbing his equipment. "We need to move now." Porter lifted Billy's small body into his arms. The boy was lighter than he expected. Whatever the Zarkai had done to him, he had lost weight. "Back to the shuttle," Porter ordered. "Move fast, but stay together." They ran. Through the corridors, alarms blaring around them. Twice they had to hide as groups of Zarkai rushed past. Porter held Billy close, feeling the boy's shallow breathing against his chest. When they reached the docking area, they found 3 Zarkai guarding their shuttle. Sergeant Will Davis, the team's weapons expert, stepped forward. "I've got this," he said, raising his specialized rifle. The weapon fired darts filled with a sedative designed to work on a wide range of biological systems. The Zarkai collapsed before they could sound another alarm. They boarded the shuttle and detached from the station. As they flew toward the Nightshade, the station behind them came alive with activity. Smaller craft began to launch. "They're coming after us," the pilot warned. "Full power to engines," Porter ordered. "Tell the Nightshade to prepare for immediate departure." The shuttle raced through space, the Zarkai ships in pursuit. Just as the enemy vessels came within firing range, the shuttle reached the Nightshade and docked. "We've got the boy and the data," Porter reported as he carried Billy to the medical. "Get us out of here." The Nightshade engaged its engines and disappeared into the shadow of Jupiter, leaving the confused Zarkai searching for a ship they couldn't see. As Earth's first stealth vessel raced home, Lieutenant Porter sat beside Billy Collins in the medical bay. The boy still hadn't woken up, but the ship's doctor assured Porter he would recover. Porter looked down at the child whose abduction had united humanity against a common enemy. In his small hand, Billy still clutched the stuffed dog his mother had sent. "We're going home, Billy," Porter said softly. "But I don't think this is over. I think it's just beginning." The return of the EDA Nightshade to Earth should have been a moment of joy. Billy Collins was home. The mission was a success, but the celebration was short-lived. Billy lay in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed. His parents, Jack and Mary, sat beside him, holding his small hands. The boy had been unconscious since his rescue 2 days ago. The sedatives they used on him were powerful, Dr. Emma Lee explained to Admiral Wright. They stood in the hallway, outside Billy's room. "His body is clearing them slowly, but that's not what concerns me most." She handed the Admiral a tablet showing scan results. "These are the marks left by the devices they attached to his skin. They were testing pain responses, temperature tolerance, and other sensory reactions. They were thorough in their testing." Admiral Wright's face hardened as she scrolled through the images. "Will he recover?" "Physically, yes. In time," Dr. Lee said. "Mentally, that's harder to predict. He's just a child." Inside the room, Billy's eyes fluttered open. Mary gasped and squeezed his hand. "Billy? Sweetie? Can you hear me?" The boy turned toward her voice. His eyes were distant, unfocused. Then recognition dawned. "Mom?" His voice was raspy from disuse. Jack leaned forward, tears streaming down his face. "We're here, buddy. You're safe now." Billy looked around the room, confusion giving way to fear. They're tall, blue skin, big eyes. They hurt me." Mary brushed his hair gently. "They can't hurt you anymore. You're home." But Billy shook his head, becoming agitated. "They said they'd come back. They said humans were interesting. They want more of us." Admiral Wright, watching from the doorway, turned to her aide. "I want the full Defense Council assembled. In 1 hour." News of Billy's return spread quickly. So did the images of his condition. Thin, pale, covered in marks from the alien devices. Anger swept through cities and towns across the world. Protests formed outside government buildings, demanding action. In a secure facility beneath Washington, D.C., Dr. Nancy Garcia led a team studying the data stolen from the Zarkai station. The room hummed with energy as scientists and engineers worked around the clock. Their propulsion system uses principles similar to our theoretical models, she explained to President Frank Howard during his visit. The difference is in the materials and energy source. They've mastered fusion in ways we've only dreamed of. The president studied the holographic display showing Zarkai ship designs. Can we adapt this technology? Use it ourselves? Dr. Garcia nodded firmly. We already are. What might have taken us 50 years to develop independently, we can now achieve in months. In another section of the facility, weapon specialists examined Zarkai defense systems. Their shields are impressive, but not impenetrable, explained Chief Engineer Paul Wilson. They rely on deflection rather than absorption. Hit them hard enough in the same spot and the shield fails. Admiral Wright joined them, her uniform crisp despite having worked for nearly 48 hours straight. How soon until we can outfit our ships with comparable weapons? 3 months for the first prototypes, Wilson answered. 6 for full deployment across the fleet. Make it 4, she said. It wasn't a request. While Earth prepared, the Zarkai ambassador appeared again on screens worldwide. The alien seemed genuinely confused by humanity's reaction. We do not understand your outrage, the ambassador said. The specimen was treated no differently than other species we study. Your emotional attachment to offspring is noted, but illogical. We wish to continue peaceful observation of your world. The response came not from government channels, but from ordinary people. Millions changed their social media pictures to images of Billy Collins. The phrase "Remember Billy" appeared on buildings, vehicles, and clothing. In a special session of the United Nations, representatives from every nation voted unanimously to reject the Zarkai offer of peaceful observation and to demand reparations for Billy Collins. But behind closed doors, military leaders knew diplomacy had already failed. Billy Collins was released from the hospital after 2 weeks. He returned home with his parents, surrounded by security. His nightmares continued. Sometimes he woke screaming about cold hands and bright lights. Other times he simply stared at the sky with fear. A month after Billy's rescue, President Howard addressed the world from the Oval Office. His normally friendly face was grim and determined. Citizens of Earth, he began, today I speak to you, not just as the President of the United States, but as a voice for all humanity. The data recovered from the Zarkai station has confirmed our worst fears. Their research on Billy Collins was only the beginning. They plan to take more of our children, more of our people, for their experiments. On screens behind him appeared images from the Zarkai database, plans for larger collection missions, lists of desired human specimens of different ages and types. They came to our home, the president continued, his voice rising. They took our child. They treated him as a specimen, not as a person. They have shown us who they are. He paused, his gaze direct and unwavering. And now we will show them who we are. As of today, Earth is at war with the Zarkai Imperium. The declaration sent shockwaves through human society. But unlike wars of the past, there were no protests, no calls for peace. The Zarkai had committed the one act that could unite all of humanity. They had harmed a child and planned to take more. In shipyards around the world, vessels were being retrofitted with the new technology. Training centers operated day and night, preparing soldiers and pilots for space combat. Scientists worked tirelessly to adapt Zarkai weapons, shields, and propulsion systems for human use. Dr. Garcia's team made a breakthrough in the 3rd month. They successfully replicated the Zarkai energy weapons system and improved upon it. Their design is efficient, she explained to Admiral Wright during a demonstration. But it's built for consistency, not maximum damage. We've modified it to deliver more power in a single burst. The test target, a block of metal similar to Zarkai hull material, didn't just dent or melt. It vaporized. Admiral Wright nodded in approval. They think we're primitive. Let's show them how primitive we can be. The first fleet of Earth ships, retrofitted with the new technology, gathered in orbit. 10 vessels, led by Admiral Wright aboard, the flagship EDA Avenger. Lieutenant Porter, now promoted to commander, captained the EDA Nightshade. On the night before their departure, Commander Porter visited Billy Collins at his home. The boy was still thin, but color had returned to his face. He sat on the front porch looking up at the stars with his father. Are you going up there to fight them? Billy asked when Porter approached. Porter nodded. Yes, we're going to make sure they never take another child. Billy was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out the small stuffed dog, the one Porter had placed in his hand during the rescue. Take him with you, Billy said, holding out the toy. For luck. Porter accepted the gift with solemnity. I'll bring him back when it's done. The next morning, Earth watched as its first war fleet departed. Admiral Wright's message was broadcast to all ships and to the people below. "They thought us weak because we care for our children," she said. "They will learn that this is not our weakness, it is our strength. For Billy Collins, for Earth we go to war." The Earth fleet moved through the darkness of space toward the Zarkai outpost on Europa. 10 ships against an empire that spanned 12 star systems. To most species, it would seem like suicide. But humans were not most species. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of the EDA Avenger, watching as Jupiter grew larger on the view screen. The massive gas giant would provide cover for their approach, just as it had for the Nightshade's rescue mission. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her communications officer. Wright nodded. "Send the message to all captains. Operation Payback begins now." Across the fleet, officers relayed final orders. Weapons were armed, shields powered up. The ships moved into attack formation. On the EDA Nightshade, Commander Porter held the small stuffed dog Billy had given him. He tucked it into his uniform pocket and turned to his crew. "Remember why we're here," he said simply. "Remember Billy." The Earth fleet emerged from behind Jupiter's shadow and accelerated toward the Zarkai research station. The alien facility still orbited Europa, now with additional defenses, a ring of smaller ships patrolling its perimeter. "They've increased security since our last visit," Porter observed. "As expected," Admiral Wright replied over the comm. "Proceed with Phase 1. The Earthships released hundreds of small unmanned drones. The devices sped ahead, drawing the attention of Zarkai sensors. The alien patrol ships moved to intercept them, firing energy weapons that destroyed dozens of drones. But the drones were only a distraction. "Phase 2, ordered Admiral Wright. 3 Earthships, including the Nightshade, activated their cloaking systems, technology adapted from the Zarkai's own designs but improved by Dr. Garcia's team. They vanished from sensors and visual sight. The remaining Earth vessels engaged the Zarkai patrol ships directly. The aliens expected an easy victory against the primitive humans. They were wrong. Earth's ships fired their new weapons. Beams of bright blue energy cut through space. When they struck the first Zarkai vessel, its shields flared and failed almost instantly. The ship exploded in a ball of white-hot flame. The Zarkai responded with confusion, then alarm. Their communications filled with urgent signals. More patrol ships moved to engage. Meanwhile, the cloaked Earth vessels reached the station undetected. The Nightshade positioned itself near the main power core, identified from the stolen data. The other 2 ships targeted weapon systems and communications arrays. "In position," Porter reported. "Execute," came Wright's terse reply. All 3 cloaked ships fired simultaneously. The station's shields pulsed as they tried to repel the unexpected attack. But the human weapons designed to exploit weaknesses in Zarkai technology broke through. The station's power core erupted in a brilliant flash. Secondary explosions rippled along its surface. Sections began breaking apart, drifting away from each other. In space around the station, the battle continued. The Zarkai ships fought with increasing desperation, but they were outmatched. Earth vessels, though fewer in number, maneuvered with unexpected skill. Human weapons struck with deadly precision. "Report," Admiral Wright demanded as the Nightshade rejoined the main fleet. "Station destroyed," Porter confirmed. "No survivors. Detected." Wright's face showed no satisfaction, only grim determination. Phase 3. Prepare for jump to the Zarkai colony on Ganymede. The Earth fleet regrouped and accelerated away from the destroyed station. Using the faster-than-light drive adapted from Zarkai technology, they jumped to Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. There, a small Zarkai colony had been established years earlier. It housed scientists, military personnel, and support staff, about 3,000 Zarkai in total. The colony's defenses were stronger than the station's, but they weren't prepared for an immediate follow-up attack. The Earth fleet appeared suddenly, weapons already firing. "They're scrambling their ships," reported a sensor officer on the Avenger. "Don't give them time," ordered Admiral Wright. "Target their launch bays first." Earth's ships concentrated fire on the colony's ship hangars. Explosions bloomed across the surface of the base. Zarkai vessels still in their bays were destroyed before they could launch. On Ganymede's surface, Zarkai troops rushed to defensive positions. They fired surface-to-space weapons, but most missed their targets. Human ships moved too quickly, their patterns too unpredictable. "They expected us to fight like they do," Commander Porter observed as the Nightshade evaded another barrage. "They don't understand that humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know how to adapt." The battle for Ganymede lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Zarkai colony was in ruins. Those aliens who survived were loaded onto transport ships under heavy guard. Admiral Wright addressed the captured Zarkai. Her words were translated and broadcast throughout their ships. "You are now prisoners of war," she told them. "You will be treated according to Earth's laws on warfare. Better treatment than you gave Billy Collins. You will be returned to your homeworld with a message. Leave our solar system or face total destruction." The Zarkai didn't respond. Perhaps they still couldn't understand why these primitives had defeated them so thoroughly. The Earth fleet released the transport ships at the edge of the solar system, pointing them toward Zarkai space. Then they returned to Earth to prepare for the next phase of the war. The victories at Europa and Ganymede were broadcast worldwide. People celebrated in streets and homes. For the first time, humanity believed they could win against the alien threat. In the months that followed, the war expanded. The Zarkai, now aware of the human threat, sent larger fleets to attack Earth. But human defenses, strengthened with adapted alien technology, held firm. Earth built more ships, trained more crews. Dr. Garcia's team continued to improve their weapons and defenses, always staying one step ahead of Zarkai adaptations. Captain Olivia Bennett emerged as one of Earth's most effective commanders. Her ship, the EDA Shadow, specialized in stealth attacks deep in Zarkai territory. She earned the nickname The Ghost for her ability to strike critical targets and disappear before the aliens could respond. "The key is unpredictability," she explained to Admiral Wright during a strategy meeting. "The Zarkai think linearly. They expect us to follow patterns. When we don't, it confuses them." Wright nodded. "Exploit that weakness. Hit them where they feel safest." Captain Bennett smiled slightly. "I'm planning something they'll never expect. A strike at their throne world's orbital defenses." The room fell silent. The Zarkai throne world was at the heart of their empire, protected by their strongest defenses. No human ship had ventured that deep into enemy territory. "It's suicide," someone muttered. "It's necessary," Bennett replied calmly. "While they focus on defending their borders, we'll show them nowhere is safe." Admiral Wright studied the proposed mission plans. It was dangerous, possibly a one-way trip. But if successful, it would shake the Zarkai leadership to its core. "Proceed, Captain," she finally said. "Show them the ghost they should fear most." As Captain Bennett left to prepare her ship and crew, Admiral Wright turned to Commander Porter. "How is our special project progressing?" Porter activated a secure display showing a massive ship under construction in Earth orbit. It dwarfed all other vessels in the fleet. "The EDA Vengeance will be ready for her first trial run next month," he reported. "She's everything we hoped for, and more." Wright allowed herself a small smile. "Good, because soon we'll take this war to the heart of their empire." On Earth, Billy Collins watched the news reports of human victories. The nightmares still came, but less frequently now. Sometimes, instead of fear, he dreamed of Earth ships among the stars. And sometimes, in those dreams, he was the one giving the orders. 3 years passed since the day Billy Collins was taken from his backyard. 3 years of war that spread across space, from Earth's solar system to the farthest reaches of the Zarkai Empire. What had begun as a response to one child's abduction had become the largest conflict in human history. Admiral Susan Wright stood on the bridge of the EDA Vengeance, Earth's largest and most powerful warship. Through the viewscreen, she watched the blue-green world below, Zarkai Prime, the alien homeworld. Once the center of a mighty empire, it was now the last stronghold of a defeated species. "Status report," Wright ordered, her voice calm despite the weight of the moment. Their orbital defenses are neutralized, reported Commander Porter from his station. Captain Bennett's strike last month took out their main weapons platforms. Ground-based defenses are active but weakened from our bombardment, Wright nodded. 3 days ago, the Earth fleet had arrived in this system and begun systematic attacks on Zarkai military targets. Now, only the final assault remained. And our forces? All ships report ready, Porter said. Troop carriers are in position, ground teams standing by. Wright took a deep breath. This was it. The culmination of 3 years of fighting, planning, and sacrifice. She thought of Billy Collins, now 11 years old, and the thousands of other humans who had suffered in this war. Begin the final phase, she ordered. Across the fleet, ships moved into position. Troop carriers descended toward the planet's surface, protected by fighter escorts. The remaining Zarkai ships rose to meet them, fighting with desperate courage. On the ground, human soldiers landed near the Zarkai capital city. They faced resistance, but it was disorganized. The aliens fought as individuals, not as a coordinated force. They had never expected to defend their homeworld. Inside the Zarkai High Council chamber, alien leaders argued. Some wanted to continue fighting. Others suggested surrender. Their debates ended when human forces breached the building's defenses. Commander Porter led the team that entered the council chamber. Elite soldiers moved with practiced precision, securing the room and the alien leaders within it. By authority of the Earth Defense Alliance, you are now prisoners of war, Porter announced, his words translated by a device at his belt. The fighting ends today. The head of the Zarkai Council, a tall figure with ornate markings on his blue-gray skin, stepped forward. How? He asked simply. How did you defeat us? You were primitive, pre-spacefaring. We were an empire of 12 systems. Porter's face remained impassive. You took a child from his home. You hurt him. You planned to take more. There is nothing in this galaxy more dangerous than humans protecting their children. Within hours, the remaining Zarkai forces surrendered. The war that had raged across space for 3 years ended not with a dramatic final battle, but with a quiet capitulation. Admiral Wright organized the formal surrender ceremony aboard the Vengeance. The remaining Zarkai leadership signed documents acknowledging their defeat and accepting Earth's terms. Those terms were surprisingly merciful. The Zarkai would retain their homeworld and 3 colony planets. The rest of their former empire would be placed under human protection or opened for joint settlement. All Zarkai weapons of mass destruction would be dismantled. A human oversight force would remain in their system for 50 years. Why do you not destroy us completely? Asked the Zarkai Council head. You have the power. Admiral Wright's answer was simple. Because that's not who we choose to be. 1 month later, a special trial began on Earth. The Zarkai scientists and officers responsible for Billy Collins's abduction and treatment were brought to justice. The proceedings were broadcast throughout human space and to the remaining Zarkai worlds as a lesson. Billy Collins, now 11 years old, attended with his parents. He was taller now, his face losing its childish roundness. Though the physical marks of his ordeal had faded, something in his eyes had changed forever, a seriousness no child should have to carry. The trial lasted 2 weeks. When the verdict was announced, guilty on all counts, Billy showed no reaction. Justice couldn't erase what had happened to him, but perhaps it could prevent it from happening to others. After the trial, Admiral Wright found Billy sitting alone in a hallway of the courthouse. You did a brave thing testifying like that, she said, sitting beside him. Billy looked up at her. Is it really over now? Wright nodded. The war is over. The people who hurt you have been punished. And the rest of the Zarkai? What happens to them? Wright considered her answer carefully. They'll learn to live alongside humans. It won't be easy, but we believe it's possible. Billy was quiet for a moment, then he asked, Can I see the stars someday? Not as a prisoner, but, as an explorer? Wright smiled. I think that can be arranged. In fact, we're starting a new academy for young people interested in space. In a few years, you'd be old enough to apply. For the first time since his return, Billy's face lit up with something like hope. As Earth began to establish colonies on former Zarkai worlds, a new philosophy emerged. Humanity ventured into the stars not just as conquerors or explorers, but as protectors. The lesson of the HFY War spread throughout the galaxy. Humans would extend friendship to those who treated them as equals, but unleashed terrible vengeance on those who threatened their children. Commander Porter, now Captain Porter, took command of Earth's first deep space exploration vessel. Before departing on a 5-year mission, he visited Billy Collins one last time. The boy was outside his home playing soccer, something he had only recently begun to enjoy again. Porter noticed that Billy no longer looked fearfully at the sky. "Brought something back to you," Porter said, pulling the small stuffed dog from his pocket. It was worn now, with a few stitches where it had been repaired. "He's been through a lot." Billy took the toy, turning it over in his hands. "So have we all," he said with wisdom beyond his years. As Porter prepared to leave, Billy called after him. "What's out there? Past the Zarkai worlds?" Porter smiled. "Everything. Other species, new worlds, things we've never imagined. Some will be friends, some won't. But they'll all know one thing about humans." "What's that?" Billy asked. "That we keep our promises. I promised to bring you home, and we did. We promised the Zarkai they would pay for what they did, and they did." Porter looked up at the stars now becoming visible in the evening sky. "And we've promised the galaxy that what happened to you won't happen to another child, human or otherwise, under our protection." Billy nodded, understanding. "Because that's who we choose to be." As Porter left, Billy held his stuffed dog and looked up at the stars without fear. 3 years ago, those stars had brought terror into his life. Now they represented possibility, discovery, and a future where humanity stood among the galactic community, not as victims or conquerors, but as guardians. The Zarkai had harmed one human child. Humanity had annihilated their worlds. And then, in victory, humanity had shown mercy, perhaps the greatest strength of all.